dreaming a new horizon, and a day it all came true. Keller Williams, you make dreams come true. Home, sweet home, oh, home, sweet home, home, sweet home.
You're listening to Home Sweet Home with Russ, McClellan, and friends. And here's Russ.
Hey, welcome back to Home Sweet Home with Russ, McClellan, and friends. And today I have a good friend and my coach, Fletcher Ellingson. Thanks for tuning in. Fletcher, how you doing?
Doing well. Glad to be here.
Great. Yeah, you know, I called you literally last night, and I texted you, and I said, hey, I had a vision that we were on the air together on a radio show because I think together we can help a lot of people. And I think a lot of people right now are kind of down. And, you know, understandably, right? In a lot of cases, we understand, like you said in the last segment, we're not trying to diminish the reality of what the COVID virus has done and just life in general. You know, life has a way of throwing curveballs. And, you know, sometimes things don't go. You know, most of the time they don't go the way we exactly plan them to go. So when you're talking about your program, The Art of Feeling Good, and my partners Luke and Sydney Groen coached with you for I think over 6 months or so, and then now I've been with you for a few months, and it's changing my life. I mean, what I wanted to pivot to is, we talked a little bit about this at the end of the last segment, is opening yourself up to an idea that your particular belief system isn't necessarily the belief system that has to remain. And there's no judgment on how you feel. It's not your fault that you feel the way you feel.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about how you explain that to people?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, I love the it's not your fault statement, because we're pretty hard on ourselves, and we beat ourselves up quite a bit when we mess up or don't hit the marks that we think we should be hitting, or go back on our diet, or, you know, stop showing up at the gym. And what I tell my clients is that it's actually not your fault. And it doesn't mean you're not responsible for it, but it's literally not your fault because the program in your brain is on autopilot, and it's running without your approval. It's running without your invitation. It is simply running, and you don't know how to turn it off or dial it down. So people say, I know what I should be doing, Russ, but I don't know why I'm not doing what I know I should be doing. And that's because there's that program that's running, and that program is unbelievably strong. And so so like in the work that we're doing together, one of the most powerful things you can ask yourself is, does this belief, does this way of thinking serve my life? That's where we begin. Does it serve my life? It's not good, bad, right, or wrong. It's just like, does it serve my life? And we can make that the determination. If it serves my life, great, let's keep on with this belief system. But if it's not, now we're suddenly at this beautiful place where we can begin to entertain something called choice. And that's an exciting precipice on which to be, and kind of then looking at the rest of your life.
Yeah, you know, we're talking about little bits of what Fletcher does, you know, and his expansion. When you sign up to coach with Fletcher Ellingson, you're going to expand into all of these little topics or little headings or ideas that we're talking about today. And so, you know, there is so much there that self-work you can be proud of when you achieve it, when you focus on it. And it's not like so often for so many people, whether they were raised this way or they just developed this way, that when you ask for help, somehow you're weak. That's just not true.
Yeah.
That's just not true.
Right. And what we're really talking about here is transformation. And I know transformation is kind of a buzzword, but I love defining words, and I was actually working on redefining transformation, and I don't have that note with me just yet because it's still in a rough draft format. But what I came down to is transformation is it's a process of evolving your thinking. In a nutshell, transformation is a process of evolving your thinking. And so the work that we're doing together, the transformation that's occurring in your life, it's a process, right? Change can happen in the snap of your fingers. Change can happen that quickly, but to transform is a process, and you bring a high level of intention to that. And it's about asking critical questions. And what I love about the program is that we're really leaving out the judgment. We're leaving out the good, bad, right, or wrong. And the main question is, does this feel good? And does it serve my life? Is that accurate?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, what you said there, judgment, right? So often it's about our interpretations of what's happening to us, around us, with us, for us, and by us. So when your interpretations are misguided through that 24/7 kind of, let's call it the human artificial intelligence component of your psychology that's been made up since you were born, since you were a little kid, since all these things have happened to you in adult life, getting to you where you're at, and all of a sudden you're sitting there wondering to yourself, what do I do? How do I do it? And the interpretation becomes not in the fair or unfair interpretation, but what works or doesn't work. Could you expand a little bit on what that means?
Yep, absolutely. So I love it. You're talking about the interpretation, and what we're interpreting is the story that we bring to any situation in our life. So anything that happens, your brain is hardwired to create a story about that, make a meaning about it, right? Or an interpretation. And so, for instance, a lot of people in this time of COVID and political strife and economic strife, the interpretation of the story they're bringing into it is that this is a terrible thing. This is the worst thing. I can't wait for 2020 to be over, right? 2021 is going to be full of hope and all this. Well, that is a story that doesn't feel good, and it doesn't really serve you, and it doesn't move you forward powerfully. So, for instance, the story that I've brought to this entire time of COVID and political strife and economic upheaval is this is a golden opportunity. My story about the time that we're in right now is this is a golden opportunity. It is a golden opportunity for people to get clear about what doesn't feel good in their life and what would feel good. It's an opportunity for them to get clear about what's working in their family or what's working or not working in their business or their career. As a result of this time, there have been a record number of new business IDs issued in our country for people who are finally creating that business. They're embracing entrepreneurship and doing something that they probably have been thinking about for years, but didn't have the time or the pain of losing their current job to push them into this. So for me, the story I'm bringing to this is a golden opportunity to connect at a higher level, to self-discover at a higher level, to be a source of contribution at a higher level, to be a source of kindness at a higher level. This is a golden opportunity.
Yeah, one of the things I loved about fair and unfair, because I think it's just natural that, whether it's like you indicated, social media, which obviously makes more money if you stay on their site longer. And it's a known fact that if you're angry or frustrated, you're going to stay on that particular website longer or app longer than if it was about kindness, right? So algorithms in social media, unfortunately, there's a great movie out, I don't know if you've seen it, called Social Dilemma. It's on Netflix, I think. And it just talks about how companies are using your emotions against you, right? And consequently, we're feeling some consequences of that. But to the fair and unfair point, what I realized in your coaching was that fair and unfair equals there is a perpetrator and a victim in everything.
Oh, yeah.
So that to me was pretty enlightening. Can you briefly talk about that? We got about 2 minutes left in this segment.
Yes, yeah. So when we play the game of fair unfair, it's always us that is determining who is fair or unfair. Now, because we don't want to cast an unfavorable light on ourselves, when we play this game of fair unfair, we're most likely to cast somebody else as the person being unfair. They're to blame. It was their fault. They're being unfair. The government's being unfair. My employer's being unfair. Oh my gosh, my partner is so unfair. My kids are so unfair. The system is so unfair. Now, what that does is that it means you're giving up your responsibility for the power, feeling and experiencing your own personal power in your life. And it actually makes you the victim. And literally, you're casting yourself as the victim when you're playing the fair, unfair game. Now, some people say, well, I don't really play the fair, unfair game. I just like to make sure things are fair. But if you're always looking to try to make things fair, then you have to be looking for what's unfair. And when you see somebody unfair, you're making a judgment about that person. And we throw out the judgment. And again, it's all about coming back to what creates workability, what serves our life. And we remove those labels. And it, again, brings us back to a new level of freedom and how we interact and express with people.
Yeah, that's good stuff, and it's real. I'm telling you, I've been in business 32 years. I'm going to be 52 years old on St. Patrick's Day 2021. Last job I had, I think it was 1986. I was a teenager. And I can tell you this, that the power that we're giving people is a sacred gift if you're going to give them the power to upset you and create emotional imbalance in your life. It's a sacred gift, and we should maybe pause before we judge, maybe pause before we allow other people to judge us and influence our decision-making and our emotions if they haven't earned the right for the power that we're about to give them. Hey, we'll be right back with Fletcher Ellingson on the art of feeling good in this land of COVID in just a few minutes. Thanks for tuning in to Home Sweet Home with Russ, McClellan, and Friends.
Keller Williams.